Chapter 1. The Humiliation. The halls of Rosewood University buzzed with excitement as the new semester began. Freshmen shuffled nervously across the grand cobblestone paths, their arms full of textbooks, their eyes wide with hope. Among them was Un, an alpha with sharp gray eyes hidden behind slim glasses, his ink-black hair falling messily over his forehead. Yoon wasn't here for parties or fame. He had one goal: top grades, peace, routine, a degree. He tightened his grip on the strap of his worn-out backpack, ignoring the flashy sports cars and giggling crowds that gathered at the university's most prestigious building, the Enigma House. Ignore it all, Yoon muttered to himself. He had heard the stories. Enigmas, a rare breed of alphas who could impregnate other alphas, more dominant, more dangerous. And at the top of that food chain was Leo, the golden boy. Yoon didn't even plan to attend the welcome party that night. But when his roommate dragged him along, saying it was mandatory for social life, Yoon found himself standing awkwardly in the corner of the vast hall, clutching a cup of soda. The party was loud, chaotic, wild. Lights flashed, music pulsed, students danced and drank as if tomorrow didn't exist. In the center of it all, surrounded by an adoring crowd, stood Leo. He was beautiful in an almost unfair way, golden blonde hair falling over sharp, mischievous eyes, a smirk permanently curved on his lips. Dressed casually in ripped jeans and a loose designer shirt, Leo radiated effortless dominance. "Who's the nerd?" someone whispered loudly. Yoon stiffened. Before he could escape, he felt a heavy hand clap his shoulder. "Hey, you lost freshman?" Leo's voice was smooth, teasing. Yoon turned, forcing himself to meet Leo's gaze. "Just here for a drink," he said curtly. Leo tilted his head, studying him with a mocking gleam. "You sure you're in the right university? Looks like you belong in a library, not a party," Leo drawled, voice dripping with laughter. The crowd snickered. Yoon flushed, humiliated. "I don't have time to waste like you," he muttered, trying to walk away. But Leo wasn't done. "Oh? You're an alpha, right?" Leo's voice rose above the music. "I thought alphas were supposed to be impressive, not some weak little bookworm with glasses." The laughter around them grew cruel. Phones were lifted. Someone was recording. Yoon froze, fists clenching. Heat rose to his cheeks, half from anger, half from shame. He could feel the gazes, the judgment. Without another word, Yoon shoved past the laughing crowd and stormed out of the building, his heart hammering in his chest. He swore then and there he would beat Leo, not with fists, but where it hurt the most, academics. From that night onward, Yoon transformed. Every lecture he sat at the very front, challenging every professor, solving problems faster than anyone else. Assignments? Submitted days before the deadline. Presentations? Delivered flawlessly. And it didn't take long for the whispers to start. "Who's that freshman? Smart as hell." Even Professor Huan praised him. It caught Leo's attention. At first, Leo laughed it off. Another nerd trying too hard. Whatever. But as the semester progressed, Un's name kept popping up. Scholarship boards. Debate winners. Top grades. Phone's face was everywhere, and not because he was partying. Because he was winning. Their paths crossed again during a debate club meeting. Leo, bored and cocky, had joined just for fun. When he saw Yoon standing at the podium, flipping through note cards, he smirked. Easy. Until Yoon opened his mouth and obliterated Leo's points with razor-sharp logic and ruthless calm. Leo lost, for the first time in his university life. And as Yoon passed him by after the debate, he muttered so only Leo could hear. "Maybe next time you'll think before you open your mouth, senior." Leo's hands clenched at his sides. He should be angry. He should be plotting revenge. Instead, all he could think about was how good Yoon smelled when he walked by. Clean, sharp, like fresh rain and wild forests. An alpha shouldn't smell like that, not to an enigma. And yet, Leo found himself watching Yoon in the library, in the lecture halls, at the cafeteria. Always from a distance, breath-catching whenever that scent brushed past him. It was infuriating. Leo had kissed and flirted with countless students on campus. He could have anyone. So why the hell was he obsessing over a stuck-up nerd who glared at him like he was the plague? Unbeknownst to either of them, the Enigma mating season was creeping closer. An invisible storm brewing in the air, thickening pheromones, sharpening instincts. It wouldn't be long before instincts overpowered pride. Before Leo's carefully controlled mask cracked, and Aun, he had no idea what was coming for him. No idea that soon, the arrogant enigma he despised would become the mate he could never escape. Chapter 2. The Heat. It started subtly. A strange tension in the air. Professors arriving late to classes, distracted. Students snapping at each other over the smallest things. Alphas growling lowly in lecture halls. Enigmas walking the corridors with darkened eyes. By the end of the week, the news spread. An Enigma hormone surge was sweeping across campus. A rare, dangerous phenomenon that hadn't happened in years. Yoon didn't care. He buried himself in the library, a fortress of dusty books and old wood, determined to ride out the chaos in silence. He had bigger things to worry about, like upcoming exams and staying as far away from Leo as possible. Leo, who still watched him too closely. Leo, who smelled even richer now, like molten amber and temptation. Yoon refused to acknowledge it. He refused to acknowledge anything about Leo. The library was almost empty that night, heavy with the scent of heated pheromones seeping through the air vents. Yoon sat curled in a corner seat, scribbling notes furiously, trying to ignore the throbbing heat coiling low in his stomach. He chalked it up to stress. He wasn't affected. He couldn't be. He was an alpha, right? He didn't notice the soft footsteps approaching until it was too late. A shadow fell across his desk. He looked up, and there was Leo. Golden-haired, golden-skinned, his shirt half-buttoned and sticking to his chest, a wild, desperate look in his usually mocking eyes. Yoon stiffened. "What do you want?" he snapped. Leo didn't answer at first. He inhaled deeply, nostrils flaring. That scent, his scent. Leo's pupils dilated until only a thin ring of gold remained. "You smell," Leo said hoarsely, "like mine." Yoon shot up from his seat, heart hammering. "Stay away from me." But Leo moved too fast, slamming a hand onto the desk to block his escape. "I can't," Leo whispered. And then the world blurred. Yoon felt himself pinned against the bookshelf, Leo's body burning against his, stronger than steel, hotter than fire. Yoon struggled, cursed, shouted, but Leo's instincts had taken over completely. There was no mockery in him now, no arrogance, only desperate, animalistic obsession. Leo buried his face against Yoon's neck, inhaling deeply, shuddering violently. "Mine," Leo growled, voice broken. "You're my mate? My fated one. I can't—" Before Yoon could fight harder, Leo's fangs sank into the side of his neck, marking him with a claiming bite. Yoon gasped, the pain blooming into molten heat, crashing into his body like a tidal wave. Everything blurred. Pain, anger, pleasure, confusion. As instinct overpowered reason. Leo clutched him tighter, whispering how much he loves his scent and how much he wants him against his skin. "I'm sorry, but I can't wait any longer." The next few hours, everything was blurred for Yoon, because everything happened so fast that he couldn't got the time to react. When Yoon woke up the next morning, his head pounded and his throat felt raw, his body aching and his mind blurred. The dim light of the library ceiling above him flickered. Something burned against his skin. He touched his neck and froze. A mark. Leo's mark. The claiming bite. Reality crashed down on him. He scrambled to sit up, panic rising in his chest. Beside from him, sitting on the floor with his back against the wall, Leo watched him with desire-filled eyes. His hair was a mess, he was shirtless, his hands trembled slightly, and his chest rise and fall slowly. Yoon looked at himself only to notice he was in Leo's shirt. His face was horrified. Yoon, Leo croaked. I didn't mean, no, You bit me, Yoon roared, shoving himself to his feet. You claimed me without my consent. Leo stood too, his body swaying slightly, but he got the grip on himself. You're my fated mate, he rasped. Enigmas, during mating season, we don't bond with just anyone. Only with our destined one. It's nature. I couldn't... He choked on the words. I tried to fight it, I swear. But when I caught your scent... Yoon backed away, hands trembling with rage and disbelief. You think that excuses it? You think that just because some stupid biology says we're fated, I'll just accept this? Leo's jaw tightened, eyes glowing golden. Because enigmas are very territorial and they just mated, and after mating the first thing his mate did was rejecting their bond, which Leo's enigma instinct didn't like, but he controlled himself before he wouldn't do anything which will make the matter more worse than it already is. I don't expect you to forgive me, he said, voice raw. His voice broke. I'll do anything to make it right. For the first time since Yoon met him, Leo's cocky mask was gone. Stripped away, there was only a broken, desperate boy underneath. I'll earn your forgiveness, Leo swore, even if it takes forever. Yoon didn't believe him. He stormed out of the library in Leo's shirt, leaving Leo behind, slamming the doors open with enough force to echo through the empty corridors. Days passed. Yoon avoided Leo at all costs. He switched lecture halls, skipped clubs, changed his routes around campus. But Leo followed. From a distance like a shadow. Not mocking, not laughing, watching, protecting. When a drunk alpha tried to corner Yoon at a night cafe, Leo appeared like a hurricane, slamming the guy into a wall so hard he cracked a brick. When Yoon slipped and twisted his ankle during a storm, Leo was suddenly there, carrying him through the rain without a word. When a group of students laughed behind his back, Leo growled lowly enough to send them scattering. Leo even bought the entire dorm building Yoon stayed in, kicking out all the other tenants except Yoon. I just want to make sure you're safe, Leo said quietly when Yoon found out. I don't want anyone near you. Yoon hated it. He hated how protective Leo was. He hated how safe he felt around him. He hated the way his body still burned where Leo's mark had sunk into his skin. He hated that deep, deep down. Part of him still reacted to Leo. A month later, the final blow struck. Yoon sat in the campus clinic, staring blankly at the test results in his hands. Positive. He was pregnant. Pregnant with Leo's child. Horror and fury crashed over him like a tsunami. He stormed out of the clinic, rage carrying him across campus until he found Leo outside the lecture hall, talking quietly with the professor. Without thinking, Yoon marched up to him and slapped the papers against his chest. Leo blinked, confused, then froze when he read the words. Pregnant. His mate. His child. Yoon's hands shook. I want nothing to do with you, he spat, his voice trembling. Nothing. Leo's head snapped up. For a terrifying moment, something dark flashed in his golden eyes. Something primal. But when he spoke, his voice was heartbreakingly soft. I'm not giving up, Leo said. I'll make you love me, Yoon, no matter how long it takes. And as Yoon turned away, heart splintering in 1,000 directions, he knew one terrible truth. Leo wasn't just some spoiled enigma anymore. He was a predator who had found his mate. And he would never, ever let Yoon go. Chapter 3. The obsession begins. Yoon thought he could outrun him. He thought that if he moved dorms, changed schedules, stayed out of sight, Leo would eventually give up. He was wrong. Dead wrong. It started with the new dorm. A quiet, tucked-away building at the far edge of campus with only a handful of students. Perfect. Private. Safe. Or so Yoon believed. Until the day he spotted the contract papers left on the landlord's desk by accident. Papers showing that the building had been bought out 2 weeks ago. By a shell company no one had ever heard of. And when he dug deeper, hacking into the fake company records through a few of his backdoor codes, he found Leo's name tied neatly to it. He felt like he was going to vomit. Guards appeared next. Hired security, blending in like normal students but always lurking nearby, pretending to be on their phones, pretending to be eating lunch, pretending to not follow him every time he left the dorm building. Leo called it protection. Yoon called it a golden cage. And no matter what he did, no matter how many times he screamed at the guards or tried to sneak past them, they always reported back. Leo always knew where he was, always found him, always appeared just when Yoon thought he had gotten away. Sometimes it was in the dead of night, when Yoon tried to slip onto a bus heading out of town. Leo would be sitting in the last row, long legs stretched out, watching him with molten gold eyes. Other times, it was in the middle of a busy street, Yoon shoving his way through crowds, only to be yanked into an alleyway by strong hands and pressed against a chest he hated far too much to admit. "You're not leaving me," Leo would murmur into his hair, voice trembling. "You're never leaving me, Yooni." No matter how far he ran, Yoon always ended up back in Leo's arms. It didn't stop there. Leo stalked him relentlessly. He snuck into his classes, sitting at the back, eyes never leaving Yoon. He slipped expensive gifts into Yoon's mailbox: silk maternity robes, rare pregnancy supplements, hand-carved crib sets. Yoon threw them away. Leo sent more. Sometimes Leo would corner him after lectures, shoving a velvet box into his hands before Yoon could dodge him. "I don't want it," Yoon snapped once, flinging the box to the ground. Leo only smiled a little sadly, bent down, picked it up, and placed it carefully back in Yoon's bag. "I know," he said softly, "but I want you to have it anyway." The worst part? The part that made Yoon want to scream and tear his own heart out? He was starting to crave it. Crave the gifts. Crave the attention. Crave Leo's touch. His body, traitorous, pregnant, tangled in the mate bond, ached for Leo whenever he wasn't around. The bed felt too cold. The air felt too empty. His heart felt too hollow. And when Leo inevitably found him again, when strong arms wrapped around him and a low, rumbling purr vibrated against his spine, Yoon wanted to melt into him and never let go. But his pride wouldn't let him. He shoved Leo away, snapping insults, calling him a stalker, a creep, a psycho. Leo just took it all with a smile, like a man welcoming bullets to the chest. "Yell all you want," Leo would say quietly, "but you're still mine. You'll always be mine." One night, it all came to a head. Yoon woke up shivering, aching, sweating through his sheets. Pregnancy hormones raging, mate bond gnawing at his soul, his body desperate for comfort. He dragged himself out of bed, barely thinking, dizzy and weak. When he opened the door, Leo was there, sitting outside his dorm room, back against the wall, head bowed, like he'd been waiting there all night. He jolted up the second he saw Yoon, rushing to his side with wide, frantic eyes. "Yoon? What's wrong? Are you hurting?" Yoon wanted to snap at him. He wanted to scream. Instead, his body moved on its own, collapsing into Leo's arms, fists bunching in his shirt, burying his face in Leo's warm chest. Leo froze for a heartbeat. Then he wrapped his arms around Yoon, so gently, so tightly, as if holding something more precious than life itself. "I've got you," Leo whispered, rocking him softly. "I've got you, my love. Always." For the first time in weeks, Yoon let himself be held. Just for a moment. Just until the trembling stopped. Just until the loneliness faded. Just until he could pretend he didn't hate Leo. Pretend he didn't crave him. Pretend he wasn't already falling. Slowly, dangerously, hopelessly. But deep inside, Aon knew the truth. No matter how hard he fought, no matter how far he ran, he was already caught. And Leo would never let him go. F-Wood, Chapter 4, The Jealousy. For a few days, peace settled. Or at least something that resembled peace. Leo shadowing him everywhere, hovering close, but careful not to push too hard after Yoon's breakdown. Yoon hated how comforting it was. He hated even more how his body leaned into Leo's presence without permission. The pregnancy only worsened it, his scent subtly shifting, becoming sweeter, more vulnerable. A beacon for danger, and danger found him soon enough. It happened on a rainy afternoon. Yoon had just finished a seminar and was struggling with his umbrella when a voice, low, familiar, unwelcome, cut through the mist. "Hey, baby. Long time no see." Yoon froze. Slowly, he turned. Standing there, drenched but grinning like a wolf, was Jae. His ex, the alpha who had dumped him ruthlessly when Yoon refused to bond before graduation. The same alpha who had once sneered that Yoon was too boring and not good enough for a real alpha's affection. Seeing him now, that old bitterness surged through Yoon's veins. But before he could open his mouth, Jae was stepping closer, eyes flickering with something dangerous as they caught the subtle bulge of Yoon's stomach under his oversized hoodie. "You're pregnant," Jae smirked. "Who's the lucky guy? Don't tell me you let some beta knock you up." Disgust curled in Yoon's chest. He stepped back automatically, but the moment he did, a low, vibrating growl rippled through the air behind him. Before he could blink, a hand shot out of nowhere, seizing Jae by the collar and slamming him against the nearest wall with a brutal thud. "Touch him again," Leo snarled, voice like cracked steel, "and I'll break your fucking hands." Jae choked, struggling, his feet kicking helplessly above the ground. Leo's golden eyes blazed, no longer the charming campus heartthrob, no longer the cocky, teasing enigma. This was something darker, something ancient, something dangerous. Yoon's heart pounded wildly in his chest. "Leo!" he started, panicked. Leo didn't even glance at him. His focus was solely on Jae, who was now pale and sweating as Leo's pheromones flooded the air. Thick, overwhelming, lethal. "You think you can just walk back into his life?" Leo hissed into Jae's face. "You think you can even look at him after what you did?" He tightened his grip. Jae let out a strangled whimper. "He's mine," Leo growled. "My mate, my child." He leaned closer, voice dropping to something almost inhuman. "I should kill you for even breathing in his scent." Jae whimpered, trembling. It was only Yoon's soft, shaking voice that pulled Leo back from the brink. "Leo, stop. Please." At once, Leo dropped Jae like trash. Jae collapsed to the ground, coughing and wheezing, scrambling to get away. Leo didn't even watch him flee. His hands were already reaching for Yoon, checking him over, running trembling fingers over his cheeks, his stomach, as if needing to make sure he was okay. "You're shaking," Leo whispered, pulling Yoon against his chest. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. He can't touch you. No one can." Yoon wanted to push him away, wanted to scream at him for his violence, wanted to pretend that the raw, desperate way Leo held him didn't make something inside him ache. Instead, he clutched Leo's jacket with trembling fists, letting himself be enveloped in Leo's warmth. Because despite everything, despite the obsession, despite the madness, despite the terrifying possessiveness that should have sent him running, Leo made him feel safe. That night, Leo moved into his dorm permanently. There was no discussion, no argument, just Leo curling around him in bed, a heavy, protective weight, hands splayed over his growing stomach as if daring the world to try and take them away. And Yoon, exhausted, lonely, hopelessly tangled in the bond, let him stay. Let him hold him. Let himself believe, just for tonight, that maybe, just maybe, he wasn't alone anymore. Maybe Leo could be something more than a mistake. Maybe he could be the home Yoon had always dreamed of but never dared to believe he deserved. But Leo? Leo was planning something far bigger. Something that would make sure no one could ever take Yoon from him again. And next time, not even Yoon would be able to resist. Chapter 5: The Claim. The campus was buzzing with gossip. It started with whispers. "Did you hear? Leo isn't just some spoiled rich kid. No way, he's the CEO of that tech empire. And, get this, he's the majority shareholder of the university itself." By the time lunchtime rolled around, it wasn't whispers anymore. It was an explosion. Everyone was talking about it. Everyone was talking about Leo. And about Yoon, the nerdy freshman who was now unmistakably, undeniably, visibly pregnant. It all came to a head one afternoon when Leo finally made his move. Yoon, waddling slightly because of his 5-month baby bump, was trying to make his way across the courtyard after class when a loudspeaker crackled to life. and Leo's deep, velvety voice poured over the entire campus. "Attention, everyone." Yoon froze. So did everyone else. "I would like you all to know something important." Students looked around wildly. Phones whipped out, cameras recording. Yoon turned bright red. "Yoon," Leo's voice continued, rich and commanding, "is my mate, my fated one, the only person who matters to me." A huge black luxury car rolled up at the edge of the courtyard, and from it, Leo stepped out. Dressed in a three-piece designer suit, looking like a walking magazine cover, he carried a massive bouquet of blood-red roses in one hand, and something gleaming in the other. A velvet box. Yoon's mouth dropped open. He wanted to run. He wanted to vanish into thin air, but his feet wouldn't move, because Leo was walking toward him. Slow, deliberate. Everyone was watching. And Yoon, round-bellied, hormonal, and mortified beyond belief, could do nothing but stand there as Leo dropped to one knee in front of him. The entire courtyard gasped. Leo popped the box open, revealing a dazzling custom-designed ring, white gold, black diamonds, and one large sapphire in the center. "I know you're mad at me," Leo said, voice low and trembling despite the mic. "I know you think I'm dramatic." Yoon scowled, crossing his arms with a very visible belly bump. His expression screamed, "Damn right you are." Leo smiled, a little shakily. "But you're my everything. You and our baby. And I've built a home for us. A real one." He looked up, golden eyes shining. "Please come with me." There was a long, stunned silence. Yoon's heart was pounding so hard it felt like the baby was kicking in rhythm. He opened his mouth, probably to say something snarky, but Leo had already stood up, gathering Yoon carefully into his arms. The students cheered. Cameras flashed. Leo leaned down, pressing a kiss to Yoon's forehead so gently that even Yoon's tsundere heart couldn't fight the sudden wave of warmth. He didn't even have a chance to argue before he was bundled into the luxury car, tucked safely against Leo's side, and whisked away from campus life. Yoon was still muttering complaints under his breath. "You dramatic, over-the-top idiot, you didn't even let me answer." When the car pulled up to the mansion, and what a mansion it was. 3 stories. Ivory stone walls, glittering windows, gardens stretching out in every direction, a fountain bigger than his old dorm building. And on the gates, in bold engraved letters, "The home of Leo Yoon." Yoon covered his face with his hands. "You customized the gates," he groaned. "I customized everything," Leo said proudly, lifting him out of the car bridal style, ignoring Yoon's weak protests. "You're out of your mind," Yoon muttered, cheeks burning. "You're my mate," Leo said simply, carrying him through the grand front doors like a prince carrying his pregnant consort. The mansion was luxurious beyond belief. A nursery already decorated in soft creams and golds. A library bigger than the university's. A master bedroom with a bed so massive it could have been a swimming pool. And right in the center, a brand new framed photograph on the wall. A candid shot of Yoon, glaring at Leo while holding an ultrasound photo. Leo beamed at it proudly. "My favorite picture," he said. Yoon just rolled his eyes harder, but his lips twitched at the corners. He was fighting a losing battle and they both knew it. Especially when the baby kicked again, like it agreed. Leo wasted no time arranging the wedding. Luxury invitations went out to the entire university. Yoon wanted to crawl into a hole and die, but there was no stopping Leo. Leo had a vision, a grand ceremony in the garden. Yoon in custom-tailored silk, Leo in a sharp white suit with a black tie. On the wedding day, standing in front of hundreds of students and staff, holding Leo's hand with a giant belly between them, Yoon grumbled under his breath, "You're a damn lunatic." Leo squeezed his hand gently. "You love me," he said smugly. Yoon's cheeks burned crimson. He didn't answer, but he also didn't pull away. And when Leo leaned down to kiss him as their vows were sealed, Yoon kissed him back. Fiercely, possessively, as if daring the whole world to even think about taking Leo away from him. Because Deep down, though he'd never admit it out loud, Yoon loved him too. More than he could ever say. More than he ever thought he would love anyone. Especially a dramatic, obsessive, crazy bastard like Leo. But that's just how fated mates worked. Twisted, chaotic, beautiful, and somehow perfect. Chapter 6. Our Beginning. It was 3 in the morning when Yoon's water broke. At first, he thought it was just another false alarm. He was 5 days overdue, moody as hell, and Leo was hovering like an anxious helicopter, worse than any mother hen. "Leo?" Yoon groaned, clutching his massive belly as another contraction hit. "I'm fine. Go back to sleep." Leo, who had been sleeping with one arm wrapped protectively around him, shot upright like he'd been electrocuted. "Fine," he barked, panicked. "You're leaking, and you're making that face, and—" Before Yoon could even finish rolling his eyes, Leo had already pressed the emergency call button on the bedside monitor, triggering the private medical team stationed on standby in their mansion. The next few hours were pure chaos. Leo was a mess. He paced the room. He cursed at the doctors for not moving faster. He threatened to buy the hospital and fire the entire staff if they didn't treat his mate like royalty. Meanwhile, Yoon, sweaty and exhausted, still managed to shoot him a glare. "I'm literally pushing a human out of my body and you're the one losing your mind?" he panted. Leo immediately rushed to his side, cradling his face. "You're doing amazing, baby," he whispered fiercely. "You're incredible. You're perfect. You're—" "Shut up," Yoon growled. Leo shut up. Mostly. He still hovered at his side, wiping Yoon's forehead, kissing his knuckles, whispering words of encouragement with wide, terrified golden eyes. And then, after hours of hard labor, a cry filled the room. Small, shrill, beautiful, their baby, their little miracle. A boy, tiny and pink and furious, wailing his lungs out as he was placed gently into Yoon's trembling arms. Yoon stared down at him, overwhelmed by a flood of emotions he couldn't even name. And beside him, Leo was already sobbing shamelessly, clutching both of them like he never intended to let go. They named him Sion, meaning the beginning of something beautiful. Because that's what he was, the beginning of their new life, their real life. The next few months passed in a blur of diapers, midnight feedings, and sleepless nights. But through it all, Leo was an unstoppable force of nature. He refused to let Yoon lift anything heavier than a pillow. He personally vetted every single nanny and bodyguard. He built an entire nursery that looked like a royal palace. He spoiled Sion rotten, and somehow spoiled Yoon even more. If Yoon even looked the slightest bit tired, Leo would swoop in, snatch Sion from his arms, and order Yoon to "Take a nap, baby, or else I'll panic and the stock market will crash." It was ridiculous. It was annoying. It was perfect. And despite himself, despite all his sunder grumbling and stubborn glares, Yoon was happy. Happier than he had ever imagined possible. Even with the baby and marriage and madness, Yoon refused to give up on his dreams. He continued his studies, determined to finish his degree. Every morning, Leo would personally drive him to campus, because he didn't trust anyone else with his precious cargo, and pick him up like a chauffeur, despite now running an expanding global empire. The university had to adjust, slightly terrified of the possessive enigma billionaire storming around campus whenever Yoon was 10 minutes late getting out of class. "He's just dramatic," Yoon would mutter under his breath, cradling Sion, who had become the unofficial campus baby mascot. But secretly, he loved it. Loved being protected. Loved being Leo's everything. Loved being loved. Leo graduated that year with top honors, thanks to special arrangements, and the fact he was terrifyingly brilliant, not that Yoon would admit it. He threw a small private graduation party, only inviting Yoon, Sion, and a few trusted professors. Then he threw himself into his company with renewed ferocity, expanding it faster than ever. But no matter how busy he got, he was always home by dinner. Always the one who sang Sion to sleep. Always the one who kissed Yoon on the forehead and murmured, "You're my home." One evening, months later, Yoon sat curled up on their giant sofa, Sion asleep on his chest and Leo's arms wrapped around both of them. The fire crackled softly in the background. Leo nuzzled into Yoon's hair, breathing him in like he needed him to survive. "I love you," Leo whispered against his ear. "So much." Yoon's heart twisted painfully in his chest. He shifted slightly, resting his hand over Leo's. "Idiot," he muttered, cheeks pink. Leo laughed quietly. "You love me too," he said smugly. Yoon glared at him half-heartedly. "Maybe," he mumbled. Leo just kissed him, slow and deep and certain. And Yoon well. He kissed him back. Fiercely. Possessively. Because Leo wasn't just his mate. Leo was his life. And no matter how dramatic, obsessive, or ridiculous he was, Yoon wouldn't have him any other way. Their forever had only just begun.